Hello and welcome to Mr. Clark After Dark, everyone. My name is Lucas Clark and I am a certified educator with Alberta Education and the Alberta Teachers Association. All conversations and interactions exchanged is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. In no way does the content discussed intend to be in violation of the ATA Code of Conduct or meant to target any individual student, teacher, or to belittle the profession in any way. If you have something that you would like me to discuss or have a story of your own to share, please reach out at lucasrdclark97@gmail.com. You can also send a direct message on Instagram at Mr. Clark After Dark. Hope you enjoy the show and please do not forget to subscribe. So far, you've simply talked about like your main activities that you've done for like you took it from this teacher, this teacher, etc. When you did your like education degree, what kind of benefit came from the education degree itself? Do you find?
Now, this is just my opinion, and I don't want it to like bite me in the butt later.
No.
I don't think the education degree actually teaches you how to teach.
So what do you mean by how to teach? Like what has changed for your idea of how to teach versus what you did when you were in a classroom?
They taught me how to do a lesson plan, which is great.
Yep.
They taught me different resources. They taught me how to use technology. They taught me how to use kind of like to look for curriculum and how to implement that curriculum. Yeah. But standing in front of the classroom is a whole different story. Do you know like that? No, I'm on TikTok now.
Okay.
Are you on TikTok? Did you know the?
No, I refused to get it. I was like, I'll spend way too much time on there.
Hey, teacher TikTok is awesome. It is cool. There's this TikTok sound that it goes like, make the plan, execute the plan, expect the plan to go off the rails, throw away the plan.
Yeah.
Now, education does teach you how to make that plan. Yeah. But they don't teach you how to be flexible.
Yeah, because almost submitting an assignment with a lesson plan on it assumes that it goes the way that you intend it to.
The kids are all going to be engaged. They're all going to do it. Like, here's a couple of behaviors that could go wrong. Yeah. Like, how to like implement it, but it's not the real thing. It's not, you're sitting in front of this class, you have an hour, you have 18 kids asking you the same question you just told them what to do. And like, you've repeated yourself 6 times. Yeah. And you have this other set of kids who have like questions that are like super valid because they're critical thinkers, and you have these other ones that don't want to do anything, so you're trying to like keep them motivated, but at the same time you sit in front of the class, you need to get through it, and you need to give them time how to do it in class. Yeah. So it's so much. And for the person who has no background in teaching, because my mom mom was very open with me, and like very like she would sit there and mark while we were eating supper. Yeah. Like she was so open, and I could see the teacher lifestyle. So I knew what to expect. Yeah. And I knew that when I stepped into the classroom, I was about to become the most popular person in the world because I was in control of their grades. Yes. Or the little humans, depending on what you teach. But like to a person who only solely learned how to do the lesson plans, and you can go on Padlet and you can create this, and they're all going to love it, and they're all going to get engaged, and they're all going to give you their best. Right? That's not going to happen. Yes. And it was never shown. And now I'm seeing a lot of teachers who finish their education degree who do not want to teach. And that, to me, is how the education system kind of failed us. There should have been a lot more hands-on. A lot more. Yes, I agree that we should have learned the things like the cores that we've learned in university. So helpful. But
so what do you mean by the cores? Like what helped you?
History, math, science, social. Yeah. Like a lot of these things that we've learned, and we kind of did over like the labs, and we did like the learning those things are very crucial. But there were some courses that could have been taken out and should have been a lot more. Okay, here's what's going to happen. We have a couple schools who have volunteered. We're going to pair you guys up. We're going to put you guys in the school, and you are physically going to sit there and watch. You're going to read the plan that the teacher gave, and then you're going to watch how she or he delivers it. And then sitting there and watching it going, well, that's not we were supposed to ask this question. And like for the literal brain, the person who literally thinks that this is supposed to go. And it sounds very far-fetched, but it's true. Yeah. It doesn't go up to plan at all. And like when I have a lesson plan and it goes, like we are writing an outline for an essay.
Yeah.
And that should take a full hour. No, it takes 3 days.
Yes.
Like, and it's the amount, like, I am still learning what, like, the extent, like, how many hours it takes to do one single lesson. Or, like, I underestimate and I overplan.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's not a bad thing. Yeah.
But, like, you have to kind of remember that you're human. They're human. Some of us had bad days. Some of us have good days. Some of us get so much done that you got free time at the end.
Yeah.
And then some
for
of
like
us take
multiple classes potentially.
Yeah.
Because and that's the. Well, earlier you said something about how you felt like you were kind of taught to yourself versus when you came to Alberta, you were kind of taught as another number.
Yeah.
And so one of the main things that kind of stuck with me from like a university video was like that myth of average. Like there's no such thing as like the average person.
Oh,
like we essentially teach to the middle person in our class, right? Like you don't really have room for, like if someone is very efficient, like even teaching grade 8 and 9 in my practicum last year for 3 months, like there was one student where arguably she was writing at like a decent grade 11 level in grade 8.
Wow.
Like I was very impressed. Whereas I have other kids in that same room who aren't even on like an IPP or anything, who can't even construct a coherent sentence.
No. Yeah.
And so to me, I'm like, I'm wasting her time by being like, not wasting her time, but almost how can I change it so that she's not stunted in her like growth, or like not underdeveloped when she literally has the potential to kind of be. So how would you incorporate for like exceptional learners for your class? How would you do that, do you think?
I think more of the critical thinking comes to mind.
Yeah.
Where, because again, like when you give the essays, let's say when you had her write, was everyone writing on a similar topic?
Yes.
So if I gave you, like I switched it up and I was like, hey, I have these 5 topics that everyone's choosing from. You can choose your own topic as well, except for I'm going to give you a little bit of a challenge. I need you to find a poem that resonates with you. Why does it resonate with you? And I need evidence as to why it would resonate with other people. Kind
of building the capacity a bit more.
And for her to be able to analyze like actual literature and like, now this is just an English stance, but the fact that if she is able to get through it really quickly because she is a lot more coherent when it comes to language or social even, give her a controversial topic and let her decide her stance.
Okay.
So like my Nat Turner paper, where it looked as though it was a rebellion, but was it? Yeah. See, okay, this one, it gets me right revved up, so I don't even want to. I was doing the Second World War, like a history course, and it was stated that America wasn't involved in the Second World War until Pearl Harbor because blah blah blah, because they were bombed, and that's when they became, because Japan was working with Germany, and I won't go right into detail because you know it. But then when it came down to it, as I was reading through script and reading through papers and like looking over documents, I think Roosevelt double tuck that whole thing. What? This is controversial. Yes, because he had right? Like his
he was baiting it like the whole time.
Yes,
like,
he was, but it wasn't even that. So Churchill,
it might happen. I don't know.
Churchill, like obviously they were working together. Yeah. But they had a Japanese translator, and they knew that it was going to be bombed, and so. And I straight up was like, no, like he double timed his whole country.
Like he needed the justification to help Britain with the Lend-Lease.
He needed the people behind him to go, absolutely, let's go to war because now it's personal. Whereas had it been like, I'm thinking of, oh my gosh, what's the word? Not dictatorship? No. There's both ends of the spectrum.
Communism.
Thank you. Okay, I was like, controversial. No,
controversialism.
So if it was communism, where it was like he made the decisions and everyone followed blindly, it would be like in that sense. It would have been no problem.
Like authoritarian.
Yes. So, see, I told you get the right top. But like in that stance, I had to go provide evidence. I had to go figure out how to cite things. I had to go like in all of these different things. Now everyone was writing a paper, But the fact that I wanted more from it,
Yeah.
my professor was like, prove it. And then he would take my thing, and it would drive me nuts because he'd be like, no. And I was like, yeah. And
You know what? I find even if you're a teacher in that sense, even if you agreed with it, just say you disagree just to see how they respond. Just to see, be like, no, like, how do you not see that? Then they get even better at explaining their point, right?
And sometimes that's where the diverse piece comes in, because like the projects that I do, like some of them can do a video because I find I'm good at writing. Yeah, I can word myself like pretty well. Yeah. Some kids can't. So they can straight up be like look at like this is right, look at the, how do you not see this, like, and then actually like fully express themselves in a manner that they understand. Yeah. But then when it comes to paper, nothing comes out because they it has to be that cookie cutter form for them. So I find giving them multiple formats of like expressing themselves allows me to understand how much they understand, and that's the goal. The whole point is to see that they understand the curriculum. Yeah. So like, if I can, and like I understand your stance too, because I am so new, and I don't want people to think that I'm that teacher. Yeah. Like don't be that teacher. There's a certain thing.
Even the fact that fear exists, like the idea that you could possibly be seen as being that teacher. The fact that entire dynamic exists is a huge problem, because like discouraging creativity is like, even if you think something is absolute bollocks initially, you might be like, oh, this actually works really well. Because I find a lot of times, like, you might have someone come in to your room for, like, you might have a great month, and then one day one bad thing happens, but then like an admin is in your room to see it. Yep. And so it's like, oh, you're incompetent. It's like, well, no, you just saw one thing. Yeah. And you didn't see what happened. Like, you don't know how what the student was like before I got here and how they've changed. And so I find there's like a lack of willingness to assume you're competent at your job. And that's like a hard, and that's
the cookie cutter form.
Yeah.
It's this is what a teacher looks like. Please follow these guidelines. Have a good day.
Yeah.
And you're like,
have a good day. So what was the, because for me, when it came to like my idealized version of what teaching was, like I was 19 years old, starting my history degree. I'm like, I love all this so much. I can't wait to get into a classroom. Everyone's going to love it just as much as I do. And I get there and they're like,
I'm bored.
And they're like looking at their phone, looking at TikTok, not teacher TikTok or educational TikTok. It's just random people dancing and over and over. And they have both headphones in, turned away from me. And I'm like, this is the Cold War. How are you not as like actively enthused as I am right now? And so that was kind of my expectation versus reality. And like, has that been the case for you? Like, you just don't receive the same like passion at all, and like how do you cope with that? Like, how do you manage that?
So when I tell the kids that they have to read a short story, and that the short story is like thebomb.com, and they are like, Miss, this sucks.
You suck.
Yeah, a lot of the times, like I said, the underdog. So when I get right passionate about it, and I'm like, there was one kid, he hated the Dead Poet Society. Yes. I don't hate him. It's fine. But
just like maybe.
But no, like he was just like, this was so boring. And I was like, no, it's not. And like he would explain why. And I'd be like, no.
Still critical thinking.
I was like, but it's not. Because well, look at this, this, like all of these like point A, B, C, D, E. And then he would just be like, no, because like this doesn't make sense. There's no like there's no climax to the story. There's no, and like, but he's arguing with me.
Yeah, I guess that's not nothing. Where, you know what? An assignment to tell me why the story sucks. Yeah. That's not.
You have to give them like their own. They have to be like it's free expression. Yeah. It's the freedom. But no, it's more along the lines like when you show the passion for learning, they typically go like, "Miss, you're so lame." Oh yeah. And I go, "Yeah, what are you gonna do about it?" Like it's like you have to kind of be the underdog. I'm okay with being the joke because I love this stuff. Like I'm so excited, and I literally put it on the Google Classroom. I was like, "We're watching Dead Poet Society. ... Be prepared for your mind to be blown." Oh yeah. And they were just like, "Miss, you're so lame." And I was like, "Yeah, bring popcorn though."
I soft troll in my Google Classroom and my email all the time. Like that's just Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Like, so I put on GIFs every Monday too.
Yeah.
So like where they'll have like there was one GIF I had of a dinosaur running across, and they were. I mean, it makes them look at my Google Classroom, which is why I put them up there. But like,
that's not a bad idea. Just like post
Monday,
memes in your classroom just to get like everyone to go on.
So
there.
everyone goes in, and I see them on the Google Classroom looking at the meme, but they've seen the message. I don't know if they're reading it. But
well, that's like classroom culture too. It's like everyone can talk about the meme when they get to class, and that's kind of the.
It's kind of fun. Yeah. No, I just think that like the more you show the passion, and it may not be their pure passion, but the fact that like you're so in love with this topic.
Have you ever felt stressed teaching?
I felt stressed.
I find you don't strike me as someone who was, even in your practicums, as someone who was like nervous to be at the front of the room. Like I felt like teaching, especially like your mom was a teacher, like you kind of. Like you're pretty ingrained in what teaching is, and you're kind of like, oh, like now this is my job. Like I don't really get that. I was terrified.
See,
so yeah.
With mom being the nerd she is, she loved math. I hated math. Yes, hated. Yeah. But she would like. There was one time we made a joke, and they were planting trees in the side of the road. I was like a kid. Yeah. Planting trees in the side of the road. She goes, "Hey Nicole, what did a pine cone say when he grew up?" I was like, "What?" He goes, "Geometry," and I was like. And it was the fact that like it was the passion that she showed for the subject that made kids want to write. It made kids want to be there. And so, and I love reading. I love English. I love social. So when you show that kind of like, that like, I love this. I love you all. You hate it, but too bad because we're going to do it. And like the kids, they end up doing things. And like, I never push them when they just physically show, not just physically, even mentally, when they show they don't want to be pushed. Yeah. So like when I was done with math, mom knew when to back off. Yeah. Because you don't, it's kind of like teaching a kid to swim. You don't ever go to the point where they're exhausted because you don't want them to drown. Yeah. So you pick your battles, right? Yeah. Is this a hill you're going to die on? Yeah. Because when a kid is like, "Miss, I hate this topic. I hate poetry. I just can't." Yeah. And so I back off. But maybe he really likes to write about short stories. Maybe he's a big video gamer and he wants to steer into like what they actually are getting some enjoyment from. Suck the honey right out of it. Yeah. Like I like milk that cow because like the second they show interest in something that you're interested in, like be the underdog, be the lame person, show up and like like I had a teacher who loved science but would show up in like skirts of like chemistry, biology, all over the skirt. And it was so, she looked like Miss Frizzle. Right. It was like you could tell she loved it, right? And so just that presence of like the chill, happy, you need an extension, don't worry about it, I'm glad you're trying. Yeah. Right? And yes, it consumes my entire being, but it's worth it for me. And that's just a personal opinion. Yeah. But I don't know, like you said, I did grow up with it, with my mom. And because of her, I think that's why Kristen is so, like, engineering, so academically inspired about math. True. Whereas I was the opposite. She, like, turned me off. But it wasn't because of her. It was more I just hated it. I couldn't get it. I can't do black and white. There has to be some kind of implementation for me or to like have an opinion. A way to think about it yourself. Yes, there has 100%. To be some kind of like of me. It has to be a part of me in it. Because you feel like you feel like an itch to contribute to it. Yes. Not just be like, oh, now I also know how to do this formula. Yeah. So let me blindly follow this every single time and then get the answer. It's not. Some people say like math is kind of like the literature of like numbers and how weird people say. So like it makes sense because like sometimes numbers, whatever they do, they're out there hanging out right now. But like mom gets so inspired by it because like to her she could read that stuff like a book. Yeah. And she can like figure things out and she's like she's such a like a critical thinker and she'll do things on her own. Yeah. Whereas like I'm the opposite. I can take a text and read it 3 different ways. Okay, and even now, I'm kind of observing that you've said a few times like you don't mind being the joke. I prefer it actually, because people think about it. If you were so like I know everything, sit down, do this, do that. Yeah. There's no way to relate to that person. But if I walked in and I was like, I've had a full brain fart today. haven't had my coffee. What are we gonna do? Like they straight up, like they get so comfortable, and you're like, now some kids don't take me seriously because they were so Alberta raised.
Yes. Yeah.
But have they ever said they hated my class?
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
Now maybe not to my face, and I tell the kids too. I'm like, if you're gonna talk about me, talk behind my back, because I mean I don't have time for that today.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know. I'm just.
But you seem very open to be like, let's just make mistakes and go with it. Even like a practical level, I've become more willing to be the joke. Like I find I've always been like, let's just say you're a student and it's first day of my practicum. Like I'll sit here and shoot the shit with you. Like I'm not gonna pretend I'm like this high and mighty teacher. But I found like the second I moved to teaching mode, I was like, I'd feel like someone like splash water on my neck, like the stress going down, and I would just be freaking out. I remember my first practicum teaching grade 8 social, the Aztec unit, and feeling so much pressure to be the person at the front of the room talking. So the school I did my first practicum at, even junior high, had 4 90-minute blocks.
Okay.
And so
that's 90 minutes of teaching.
90 minutes. And so I was like, I need to talk about the Aztecs for 90 minutes a day. And I would just be like rambling, going like, not me, but I would have enough content prepared.
Yeah.
Like I would run out of time most days. But it was that over preparation of I need to be the one in the front of the room who's doing the teaching. But like I would stammer so much. But you know what? With grade 8 English, I was comfortable. Grade 8 social, I was comfortable. But then I also taught 30-1 English in that practicum. And it was 1984 George Orwell, which is, I mean, that's a pretty conventional grade 12 text. And I had read it before. But trying to give commentary on English when I had like no English background to like academic AP Westwood kids, I was like she would always ask me if I had anything to contribute, and I was like, no. I was like, you go ahead and take this one. I'll get the next one. Like I'll be here, you know.
The back of your head, you're like, why do you want me?
She was super chill in terms of like, I don't want to overburden you, because it was also during COVID, so she's like, we got kids in and out right now. We actually, in the 5 weeks, we had 2 weeks in person, 2 weeks out of school, and then 1 week in person. So that was kind of like the relay there. And so she said, I barely even know what we're doing right now. Like we ended up listening to an audiobook over Zoom. Because that was just, we need to get through a text. Yeah. And there's no other way to do it. Like that was just a survival mode of like, we need to figure this out. But I got so stressed the entire time, because I was like, I don't feel like I'm doing it right. I don't feel like I'm doing teaching right. Rather than being, we're going to be here for you during COVID, which I felt like I needed to be that person. Yeah. But I was so overwhelmed with like my own kind of imagery of being the good teacher. Yeah. And like imposter syndrome. Yeah. Is like, even now, if I'm trying to like deliver content, even in a grade 12 class, I studied history. All of the content in grade 12 is like foreign policy, internationalism, grade 11, 12. And that's all I studied in university. But now to be the one who's like the authoritative source in the room, I'm like, I'm 11. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to go about doing that. But yeah, I guess any advice for someone who is that like stressed out, kind of anxious, and not even about the content. Yeah. It's like, you know the content, but you don't feel like you're the one who should be saying it. Like, what would you say to them? If you're going into your practicum right now and someone's like freaking out.
As much as I'd like to say, like, chill out, relax. You're good.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Comes with experience.
Yeah. But like, even for you, like if I had saw you go from like shoot the shit to teacher mode. Yeah. And like, even as if I was in the room with you, I'd be like, Lucas.
Like that's gotta be the same thing.
Yeah, like I'd be like, Lucas.
Yeah.
Like but like, you have to remember, like, a lot of these kids, they don't know what they're doing because you are the teacher. So when you make a mistake or not, they're not gonna know.
I know, and that was the main thing I learned was, so the first in that practicum she was an English teacher, obviously, and so I had to do some marking for her. She was like, "Okay, you weirdo, like here it takes." So like, she didn't ask me to do it. I wanted to do it, and so I took the marking. And they just did, it was like the critical analytical, the Carl, and like their essay acronym. And I just marked the paragraph, and I was like, oh, these are ass. Like I have something to provide to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I have some sort of information I can relay to help them improve.
Yeah.
So that was that settled the imposter syndrome a little bit. Cause like one of the weird things I feel like even that transition from university student to teacher, you still kind of have some sort of imposter syndrome of like adjusting to it. But even I had one professor who said, you should be almost like more cautious of people who like no experience with it. Because like if you think you're the expert at everything, then you're just not. That's just not true for anyone.
No,
it's like you should have. It's like healthy to have a degree of imposter syndrome, a bit. But
yeah, actually, I agree with you, because I was gonna say that comes with kind of like your cookie cutter.
Yeah.
So remember how like we talked about like the group. It's easier to stand in a group than it is to, and it's your safe space.
Yeah.
So you feeling like the smartest person in the room makes you feel like the teacher. So now it's your safe space. So when that safe space is taken, you become dysregulated.
Yeah.
So why
100%.
is it that like, so it's almost like you have to like create an external or internal, depending on what you need, regulation that allows you to A, explore, and B, be the kid's safe space. So like, it's okay to make mistakes. And I've always kind of like, because mom's always told that to me.
Yeah.
And right. So, and again, I think a lot of it came from like my mom.
Yeah. Like a lot of the recognition of the reality of teaching, I feel like was relayed to you literally just throughout your life.
Yeah.
Whereas like no one in my family was a teacher.
Yeah.
My grandpa was like in Newfoundland years ago, but really.
And not to, I mean, actually, you know what? It's not all just my mom, though. It's my dad. So I'm going to tell you a story, and I really don't want you to look at me like I'm cross-eyed, okay?
Oh.
Because I straight up, so I'm not good at math. You know this.
Yeah.
My mom and my dad love to argue about math because it helps them. No, but it helps them like become more.
I didn't have those conversations.
No. Okay. And then Kristen started joining in because now she's an engineer.
Yes.
We were sitting at the picnic table last year at my birthday, and I talk fast because I'm like this.
Yeah.
So when they start going off about math, like they lose me after they stop the addition and subtraction, and I'm like, hello. And so
it's
they
like
start
square roots.
Yeah. Wait, you mean like in the ground? Like. So they start talking. And then there was one, I was sitting there, and like they had made, like Dad had made me like some ribs, and we were all sharing for my birthday. Yeah. And so I was eating it, but I'd realized I'd sprayed bug spray on my hands. Yeah. And I straight up, right in the middle of the conversation, and again, I don't mind being the joke. Yeah. And I think this is why. Yeah. My parents were arguing about like the percentage of like if this person was sitting at this table, like blah, 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 what would happen? And I was like, can you eat bug spray? And then they were like, what? Like they looked at me and they were like, are you serious? Did you really just ask that? Like, well, they were doing like this.
Can you? I don't know.
I was licking my fingers. And I was like, oh my God, there's bug spray on my hands.
Yeah,
and so they're
with
like,
rib, that's just a reflex. Like,
well,
you're just
I know. And then they were like arguing about math. And I was just kind of like, I think I just ate poison. And this is what I mean. So growing up with that, and like, and don't like when it comes to certain things, like we all show our strengths. Yeah. But we all make sure that we're okay with being a joke, because when it comes to learning, it's not about who's the smartest in the room. It's about collaboratively having those academic
they're actually all having a legitimate conversation about a problem. Yes. Not yelling at each other. They're right. It's like, what is this?
No.
Right?
And
that's
like
the
they're
difference.
proving the points, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it does get heated. Like we can't play Monopoly as a family. We play it once a year at Christmas because we leave like angry. Because it is like a rule in our house, we're not allowed to play Monopoly until it's Christmas. Because it's just straight, like just arguing across the table. I have videos. Now again, like I am full on underdog. I don't mind being, mainly because I think I'm more of like the artsy type, where I'm like I love the literature, I love like the history, and like it's all open for interpretation. Yeah. So how people interpret me is up to them, and and it has nothing to do with me. Yeah. So how I see myself is how I see myself, and again, that's the English part of me. Yeah. But they're all very literal. Mom is very like now she, I find, is artsy but with numbers. Kristen is very literal. Okay. Dad is very literal, right? Like very very intelligent. Yeah. And I am intelligent in my own ways. Yeah. But it's just like sometimes I become the black sheep. So
Yes.
I think being that black sheep has allowed me to kind of like come out in the classroom.
Teachers in general are like usually the black sheep in their
Yes,
family.
yes,
That's what I've noticed.
100%.
It's like
100%.
we're not, because some people will say like, oh, education's easy to get into. It's like, well, even a lot of other professions they're not that much more difficult or even the same difficulty to get into.
No.
It's almost like, I have noticed that though, like teachers for the most part, once you start talking to them, they're like, yeah, my whole family does all that, but I do this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they are very much kind of in their own lane.
And don't get me wrong, like the fact it is easy to get an education, okay?
Yes.
And it's not as easy to get into engineering.
No.
But what you do with that degree defines who you are. So it's not, or I shouldn't say that. Well, actually, you know what? Yeah. Because
it's your identity.
You can get into it.
Yeah.
Congrats. Like, so did we. The difference is that, like, the way that you conduct yourself in the classroom and who you make to our future generation, I think has more to do with the degree than it does to actually, like, look at your grades and look at the actual degree and courses itself. Yeah. But yeah, so when it comes to being, I don't know, sometimes people will have an opinion about you. And I'm not going to, I was going to say something that my dad always says, but like, no, because it curses and I don't like
Just go for it. Just go for it.
My dad always says like opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. And so like, when it comes down to that stuff, I mean, people have opinions about me and they say things about me, but it's none of my business. And if they want to tell me, then go ahead. Like, I know who I am. And if you
it's extremely healthy.
Well, if you want to come in and like ask me and be like, what's the curricular aspect to this? I have things to back it up.
Yeah, it's like, because or even if you just came up with it and you thought it was like, you know, this could work. If someone comes in, the thing about especially social, like it's the curriculum as a document of justification. Yeah. Like no matter what you're doing, if you're like relating to any sort of course content at all, there's going to be a way to relate it to those like general outcomes. Yeah. Like it's not going to be hard. So, but again, everyone will have their idea of how to reach the general outcomes and the educational outcomes. So teaching is, I find, an ongoing battle. Mm-hmm. It's like you're almost trying to prove with almost every other like black and white job of like, we're running these numbers today. We're doing these equations. We're doing this measurement. We're building this today. Like it almost seems like the work is more like if you're a carpenter and you're building a house, you see that house being built. You're like, oh, I did that. Yeah. But teaching, you're almost, especially in the public, you're almost kind of constantly having to justify that you are doing something.
And the kids have to have some kind of outcome out of it in order for you to get that. It's
like, oh, you only have 9 assessments for this one. It's like, okay, well.
But what kind of pressure are we putting on the kids and on ourselves? Like, people, we wonder why teachers get burned out so bad. Yeah. Like, why can't education be more along the lines of like what we learn and how we learn it based on what the outcome is?
And everyone's like, but I don't see a mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's.
Like, yes, some kids are going to bomb that exam. I have a 4.0 GPA in my Canadian and U.S. History. Yeah. But I bombed that social exam in grade 12. Yeah. And it's not my teacher's fault. Yeah. I cannot test. I'm awful at it.
I know. And so I will say with teaching like grade 11 and 12 in Alberta for the year so far, everyone is pretty much, your students' diploma results are not a reflection of you. I mean, to some extent, like if I just talk about dogs every day or cats every day, obviously they're not going to be as well prepared as if I actually just go, even if I just stand and talk, I'm at least, it's not nothing. Yeah. But when it comes to the actual result, they say, don't take it personally. Just continue reflecting on yourself. Take it for what it is. Yeah. Maybe like, for example, the one thing I did know is if I was giving a kid a 60s on his essays and then he gets a 20, it's like, okay, maybe I am being too generous with my marks a little bit. Like I can see that negotiation, but that's like that's still not defining me. That's defining how I analyze them.
Yeah. I think a lot of teaching has to do like what a lot of teachers, based on what I hear, a lot of teachers don't realize that you're not just their teacher, you're their parent. Yeah. When you grow up, if you look back and I was like, let's just say I was like, oh, like this happened in my life, this happened in my life, this happened in my life. It's all my parents' fault. What do you do when it comes to your academic career? Yeah. It's all my teacher's fault. So like, if you go, maybe we should have like.
And that's another thing for students. I always say. So even last semester, I messed up an answer key when I put it through the Scantron for a quiz. And like my class average was 36%. I was like, oh my God. I was like, what did I do? I was like, we covered all this. Like I didn't know what happened. Then we went through it as a class, and then as I was going through it, I was like, oh shit, I messed up the thing. And one of my students was like, oh, just blame it on someone else as a joke. But I was like, no, like, this was my mistake. I was like, that's on me, whatever. I was like, it's not the end of the world. But still, the idea that when you make a mistake, you should seek to blame it on someone else, that's just not going to set you up for success at all. I feel like you need to own your mistakes, because if you're not, then you're just kind of
make a joke out of it.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I'm just like, oh, I'm literally an idiot. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm here in front of you guys. Like, I'll be like, I make fun of myself, but
because a lot of like you get the kids that go, I'm stupid, I'm dumb, and they blame it on them.
Oh,
be careful.
Fair.
You go, my bad.
Yeah.
And then they go,
like,
oh, miss effed up again.
Well, honestly, I'm like, what do you do? And I just like, we'll continue on with the quiz, and I'll be like, okay, at least, well, if anything, at that point, I was like, okay, they actually do know this stuff. I made like just a general like bubbling error myself for that, but yeah.
I try to be careful though, because like I was also the kid that they call it fishing. You know how like when you take the bait for negative comments, so you're literally going I just heard what you said. But like literally you're fishing for the negative aspects. So like when you get a bad grade, it's I'm stupid, I'm an idiot, I made a mistake, I can't make mistakes. And you go, just kidding, maybe should we keep the grade? And everyone's like, no.
Like you make light of it.
So whatever, I made a mistake, I'll just fix it later. Like it's not a big deal. And so like I find that like when you, because I used to use those words too, and then all of a sudden I was the stupid one, I was the idiot. I was like, oh, I made a mistake, I'm just stupid, whatever.
Like you're watching, because realistically, even if you're not the smartest person in the room, it's like you still are their role model in a lot of ways. Even if they're 18, it's like even myself now, like I've said, I'm what separates me from my students is 6 years of university. But realistically, I'm not that much older than a lot of them, especially in grade 12. And like, even though you are kind of the older sibling age to a lot of them, you're still a teacher. So their idea of like a teacher is still attached to you. So you still have to maintain that kind of positive modeling in a lot of things. But and that's and even when I like, sometimes if I'm like tired or if I'm in a bad mood, I'm just like, I can't be like this.
No.
Usually it's just perk another Keurig and I'm fine. But
and that's your regulation.
100%. So like literally, one of the things I was going to ask you was, even in elementary and junior high, any level, even subbing, how do you like, what strategies have you used or to like ensure you have the same level of energy for each class as they come in? Because that was like, I find like block 1, I'm breezy. Block 2, I'm pretty good. It's like block 3, I'm great. But it's block 4, like that initial, I'm like
after lunch.
It's just it's like I'm thinking senior high here. So senior high, it's like like the morning, I'm good. Even maybe like teetering toward the end of block 2. Like maybe like toward lunch, I'm starting to kind of phase out. But then I always perk a coffee right after lunch. And I sip on that throughout the day. So I guess I'm trying to model the same kind of energy to you the entire time we're talking or I'm with you. Because if block 1 pisses me off, I shouldn't take that out on block 2. Or I shouldn't carry any of that with me. Like you kind of need to be like a goldfish a little bit. Like how do you do that?
So if you think about
the chocolate drawer, but
my chocolate drawer is
but
like think about like track and field. I ran track. I hated it, but I ran track.
Does anyone really love it? I don't know.
When you're doing long distance runs, you don't start off really fast. You start off slow. So having that routine in the morning, I find Boggle is my go-to, and they love it, right? And it sets me up for success because I've reset. So like this is block 2. This is not block 1. Block 1 could have been hellions. They could have been absolute trash for me, like did absolutely nothing, yelled at me, called me names. I go, so I tend to make jokes about how my day is going. And so there was one kid that came in, I had a grade 8 class, and I was so dysregulated. And
so what does dysregulated feel like for you?
Frazzled. Like I feel so like all of a sudden I'm sweating. I just feel like my day isn't steady anymore. I don't feel stable. I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to go home. I want chocolate. I want like, I just like, I'm an emotional eater. And I just straight up like, I'm done. Like, don't get out of my face.
Yeah.
And I can't do that because that's not fair to them because they don't do it to me.
Yeah.
So
they're excited to see you.
Well,
so continue on.
I have to model the kind of behavior that even though I'm dysregulated, when they come in, they have to show the same thing. So I find for me, I'm straight up with them. I go, guys, I think I'm having a shit day.
Yeah.
And they go, what happened? Like, why? What's wrong? And
so
I go,
kind of debriefing a bit.
I debrief. I go, I am so dysregulated. I don't know if you guys are like this, but here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like brief out with them and then I make jokes. So I find the more jokes I make, the better. So not on their expense, but sometimes I have this kid who I have a nickname for him now because I literally could not say his name. I kept making like, I don't want to say his name, but like, anyway, so because I kept calling him by an accidental nickname. Yeah. He's like, Miss, we need a nickname for you. And I was like, yeah, I'm Miss Sizzle. Welcome to my Hizzle. And so now they say, and they think I'm so lame. Sometimes I'll dab. Oh. And like, it's the smallest things. I dab all the time. And that's all great. Of a sudden, they are so much like, Miss, you're so lame. And it's just like, I'm reset. This is a new class. Like, I made a joke about it. Lame. Yeah. It's time to just like, I gotta let go. Put it on a leaf and let it watch it go down the river. Like, it's done. Yeah. Okay, it happened. I'll restart tomorrow with that class. Yeah. But this is a new class. So let's try again. So I pop a little orange chocolate. And then I go, okay. Start with, and then I just go about your day. Just try again.
Yeah, okay. Just try again. It's a new chapter. Like that. I like that.
Try again. It's a new chapter.
Because I find when I get dysregulated, it's almost like I don't know if it's dysregulated or caffeine crash or both.
Tired's a different story.
Well, like I find like my mental state goes from, because like right now how I'm talking to you, this is me all day. Yeah. Like if I'm like feeling good, every class it's like, all right, we're doing this today. We'll kind of get into it. I'm pretty good, but it's like I get like low social energy. That's kind of where I'm like, do I need to pick me up? And I'm like, did something happen that made me feel like this? Like, when did my state change? And it's usually, I just assume it's like a caffeine crash as well, just like general tiredness throughout the day. Yeah. I don't eat much, like for what I eat throughout the day. I don't really eat lunch. Yeah. I eat like a breakfast and supper. So that's kind of my thing. So I'm like, do I need a snack? Like, do I have? But yeah, that's again. It's probably not healthy, but I guess black coffee is my regulator. Yeah. That's 100% for me. But
I think when it comes to tired, that's a bit of a different story. Yeah.
Like, how do you just deal with like, it's like a Wednesday morning, you're kind of zonked. It's like you got a busy weekend before, and like maybe even in the future, it's like you're getting into like coaching and all this stuff. Like, I just got back from track and field provincials yesterday, and like now we go back to school tomorrow. Like, this is a Sunday morning that we're having this conversation. So it's like now tomorrow's Monday. We have a 5-day week. Like, we're getting into it. This Wednesday coming, it's like, well, how do you maintain energy? Like, how do you not be tired, I guess, rather than regulated?
So, I mean, just regulated definitely comes with it. That's for sure. Yes,
yeah, like they are kind of hand in hand.
But let's say I'm completely regulated, but I'm exhausted. Yes. Safe space. That's it. Because don't get me wrong, it helps with mental health.
So what do you mean by safe space again?
So safe space is like, it's basically the thing that you revert to go, like, this is mine and mine only. Yes. Nobody can bother me here. Okay. Right? So it doesn't have to be a physical place. It can be a mindset. It can be an object. It can be an action. Right? It's yours. It's yours. What is yours again? Only. If you don't mind me asking? Technically, mine is like having my own little corner. I like to feel like this is my corner of the world. Nobody can touch me. Okay. So whenever I get really tired, what I'll do is I'll create that my little corner, which is typically my classroom. I kind of try to make it, which is why. So if you go into my classroom now, and it's not the classroom I'm going to have next year, trust me, I'll be a lot more regulated. But like that little corner that I created by my desk is my little regulation, my little safe space, because it has some of my favorite things. It has pictures. It's my little corner, and it has
like
my chocolate
purposeful distraction a little bit.
Yes.
It's kind of the same.
And if when I revert back to it and I can kind of back up and I know that I feel like cornered into my little space, I'm able to kind of like create my space while helping them make theirs. But at the same time, like when I get tired, having like behind my desk kind of giving instructions, sometimes I don't stand up in front of the class. Yeah. Because if I need to sit in my space, I'll sit in my desk and teach from there. Yeah. And I'm still talking to them. Yes. But it's the fact that my mind's like, you're in your corner. You're okay. Yeah. And it took me years to figure out how to create my own safe space. And like, you know what? A lot of adults can't yet. Yeah. Right? And that's
it is hard to
it's
like
hard.
figure out what regulates you though, especially if you're like hectic and you do have like a traumatic past that's like you're constantly ruminating. You don't know what it's like to not be ruminating.
Yes.
That's like a big thing. Even I've noticed with like not other teachers, but just like some students, I almost find, especially the ones who are constantly distracted, they're always the exact same.
Yep.
Like they don't even know what it's like to not be in that state, right? So that's I guess that would be like a beneficial practice, because I guess we talk a lot about regulation and dysregulation, and I think a lot of the times it's like the teachers should know how to regulate that student, but no, they need to figure out, because like, you know what, we can't regulate 150 junior high kids.
No, you have to be
days.
realistic.
Yeah, because you know what,
but if we gave them the tools,
like regulation tools, because like again, mine is kind of take a deep breath, get another cup of coffee.
Yeah,
like ours are completely different.
Yeah,
so it's like regulation is not one thing.
Yeah,
again, the non-black and white of like teaching, and you're dealing with people all the time. Even though they're kids, they're still humans. Like they're still people. They have their own process, and you gotta like, you get to show them kind of the, not the flaw, but like the aspect of their thinking that's leading them to feel that way.
Yes.
Because they might not even recognize what's changing their mood or what's dysregulating them. And that I find, like, I feel like the word trigger is overused, but like catching, I mean, so like recognizing your triggers or recognizing when your mood state changes, that is huge for like,
So, and that's the thing too, a lot of like, because there is still a stigma on mental health.
Yeah.
I think.
And I don't know if that'll ever go away, really, but
like, I used to go see a counselor. I haven't since because of like me transferring to working instead of just in school.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that kind of thing, like she always talked to me about having a toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is my little toolbox, and my toolbox has to have X, Y, and Z that make me feel better. Yeah. So being aware that it is okay to feel off and talk about
it. It's all good to like not have a good day. Yeah. But like, go on.
But like, it's not okay to take it out on others. And it's not okay to make others feel the way that you feel because you don't know what you're feeling. Yeah. And it's not okay. Like, don't internalize it. But what we're saying, like, it's so controversial because you can say like, don't internalize it, but don't externalize it. But like, well, but it's okay to externalize it in like a polite and understanding manner. Yeah. You go, you know what, miss? I'm really not having a good day. I didn't sleep well last night. And like, I know it's not an excuse, but is it cool if I maybe like do this tomorrow? And I go, yes. Yeah. You know what? If you need 10 minutes on your phone, go to 10 minutes on your phone.
Or go take, like, I know the take a walk is a cliche, but I'm like, go look at the vending machine. Like, I don't know, like, just go, like, don't even, honestly, I'm, with the purposeful distraction thing, I'm wondering if that would even be better. If, like, you said go for a walk, you say, go look at the picture by the office. Yeah. Or go look at that. That way they have, like, a kind of a goal in mind rather than just aimlessly walking. Because usually, unfortunately, our kids who are more dysregulated are more likely to be the ones causing havoc in the halls, etc. So, I mean, I guess maybe giving them a task, again, that's adding more to our plate. But which is obviously that's usually the answer to every teacher problem is, just go do more, figure out more. Yeah. But
and I know because I am still young. Yeah. But I am a hugger. And I know, like, junior high can be kind of bad. It can be kind of like, whoa, don't touch them. Because with little ones, like,
they're hugging you all the time.
Well, and sometimes you don't even expect it. But I mean, whoever says that elementary and junior high don't go hand in hand is a liar. Because I've had tears. I've had I can't zip up. Like, I need you to help me zip up my coat. I got that once, and I was like, oh my God. But the other day, one of my girls in my grade 8 classes was super dysregulated. Like, with the whole, like, friends and boyfriends and oh my God,
the drama llama business.
I call him the comma llama, but he's my comma llama because I don't do drama. But so I have so many. If you came into my class, you'd be like, what are you even talking about? So she's basically like, I gave her a hug and she was sitting in my arms and there was like mascara tears on my like neck and my chest because she was just like full bear hug. But like, that helped her regulate.
Well, they might not be getting that from anyone.
Right, and like sometimes like you have you ever heard of love languages?
Yes.
Hey,
like
you know how
physical touch or like services, like that kind of stuff.
Acts of service or like gifts or and sometimes like when it comes to understanding kids' regulation methods, they have to know what their love language is. Yeah. Because their love language releases that serotonin in their brain.
Well, you need that comfort to learn.
Exactly,
yeah,
right?
Like that's
it's like they revert back to being children and they don't know what to do. And even adults do it. I still do it.
Yeah.
So having like understanding your love language and understanding like the things that you do to get rid of that frustration that may cause harm. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just really easy for us to, or not easy. Sometimes it's essential for us to kind of be like, hey, like here's what we're gonna do. Would this help? Would this help? Do you need a hug? Do you want to go for a walk? Do you need ice? And I know everyone always asks me, like, they're crying. Why would they need ice? But having that physical coldness.
Yeah. Like, just something to, like...
Yeah.
Because I think it's, like, where all of, like, your main...
sensories.
Like, heat... No, that's, like, where your heat escapes your body. I think I heard on another podcast, it was, like... It comes from your hands and your face.
Yeah.
So like being able to, so like putting like something cold here and just like holding it, that will just.
It kind of brings you back down.
It's purposeful distraction.
Yeah.
It's like a purposeful change in your state.
Yeah.
Because again, like even if it's like you put it in hot water, or like you go wash your hand, like you're doing something to kind of change, or you do 10 push-ups, like anything to kind of just revamp that state.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I just think that like. If we weren't so focused on what the kids are learning, how they're learning it, and the marks that go with it, if we were more look at like, it's kind of like look at the person, not the curriculum.
The myth of average.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There is no average.
So I have one more question for you.
And then we're done?
Yeah.
Okay. I have to pee.
Okay.
So I told you, see? Underdog. It's okay.
No, that's fine. So... I heard a quote once. I loved it. Mm-hmm. I was like, education is what remains after you forget everything you have been taught. So my question for you is, outside of learning, just for like life itself, what do you hope that your students get from having you as a teacher specifically that you want them to carry with them as they go forward?
I hope they look back and they go, I loved that class. I was so comfortable in that class. Yeah. I just felt like I could be me. And, like, I want them to know that, like, I am their safe space. They're not going to remember what you teach. I mean, I can't. The teachers that I remember, I don't remember a single thing that they said. I don't think I ever paid attention. But, like, it was the fact that I could go up to one of my teachers, and he was my top favorite.
Yep.
I loved him.
Yep.
And I could go up to him and be like, I'm having an awful day, and just cry. And then he would be like, do you want to, like, sit in the back with your friend today? And I was like, yes. And the fact that he leveled with me like I was a human. Like it wasn't about the curriculum. Now.
Yeah, it wasn't just get over it. We have stuff to learn.
Yeah. It was more like, it's more about like how you treat them and how you want to be treated. And like, I am a human being and like, I'm here to learn. But like, I really want my kids to come in and just be like, I feel like I can be myself. Yeah. So for instance, there's a kid who really, really hates writing essays, but writes songs.
Okay.
And he brought his, because he likes poetry, but like his poetry. Mm-hmm. And so I brought over, because I was at Kohl's, and I was like, oh my God, like it has like his initial on the journal. This is so cool. Bought it, because it was a gift card from one of my grade 3s. So, but then I bought it, and I slipped it into his backpack, and he was blown. And like the fact that like he was just like, Miss, like you didn't have to do that, like da-da-da-da. And I've never seen any of his poems. But the fact that he likes to do it, and I've seen him write them, it was just, he comes in, he says good morning to me, he comes like, he is a whole different, and like, I feel like maybe he feels a little more accepted in the class, and he's not just another kid being taught another thing. So like,
All right, I love it. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it, Miss North. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right.
Hello again, everyone. Just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this conversation, and hopefully you enjoyed the conversation just as much as I did. If there are any issues with professional conduct and or you would like to share your own story, experience, or something you would like to contribute to the show, please reach out at lucasrdclark97@gmail.com or send a direct message on Instagram to @mrclark.afterdark. Hope you enjoyed, potentially found something of use, and of course, please do not forget to subscribe. See you next time, unless you're scared.